and I want to welcome you to the Breakout Regional Economic Recovery Through the Arts. And just to introduce myself again, I am Susie McKinnon with Arts for a Better Bay Area, and I'll be facilitating this panel. I'm going to start with a brief synopsis of this topic, and then I will introduce all of our panelists here, and then we're going to allow them all about 5 minutes to speak about all the programs that they're working on that are related to this topic, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So essentially, this breakout works to shed light on how arts and culture can make a positive economic impact on cities and neighborhoods, and also investigate the role arts and culture can play in regional recovery. What we've witnessed, especially here in San Francisco, is that there are a number of initiatives and programs underway or being developed. Mostly what I see is in public and private partnerships to utilize the arts towards helping to revitalize and reinvigorate various regions and areas throughout the city. And I will say that some areas in San Francisco definitely look to be more impacted than others, especially the downtown area and where we are now in the mid-market and central market area. Each one of our panelists here today is directly working on or involved in some of these initiatives. And we also want to disclose that the panel here it's not, they're not representative of the full list of all the initiatives that are happening here in San Francisco, but we hope this panel will help to shed more light on the specific topic and also some of the programs that are happening here right now and coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with introducing everyone. Right here to my left is Laura Poppiti with the Center for Cultural Innovation. And then next we have Richard Raya. He's with the MEDA, Mission Economic Development Agency. And we have Fernando Pujals. He's with the Mid-Market Business Association and Foundation. Next is Meredith Winner. She's with Building 180 and also Painting the Void. And then we have Jacob Bintliff, who just stood in for his colleague who has COVID, so we're thankful he's here. But he's with the San Francisco Office of Economic and Workforce Development. So we didn't have a really a sequence of how we wanted to run through this, so I thought we'd maybe kind of popcorn it, and does any of you want to take it away? Do I have to choose somebody? I'm looking at Fernando.
Oh. We'll call it home turf since we're here in mid-market, I suppose.
Yeah,
thank you, Susie.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone. Again, Fernando Pujals with the Mid-Market Business Association and Foundation. I want to just start by saying I'm delighted to be having this conversation here in mid-market or in the Central City neighborhoods. Certainly there is a lot of challenges and throughout the city, and particularly in the downtown core, but it's my strong belief that the international reputation of the city comes right here through the Central City neighborhoods. And I have been involved in a process over the last year engaging with stakeholders, including developers, brokers, arts organizations, artists, individuals, small businesses, really looking at the neighborhood to think about what's next. And the answer that keeps coming back to us is something that's been staring us right in the face the whole time, and that is that within 3 blocks here, from 6th to 9th, we have 5 major entertainment venues between Bill Graham, Warfield, Orpheum, Golden Gate, and the Strand, as well as longstanding independent arts organizations, everything from hospitality houses, community arts program, to counterpoles. Rest in peace, Piano Fight. My colleague now, Rob Reddy's in the audience. We'll talk a little bit about that. But that is to say that we have the infrastructure for what could be recognized as a top-notch international arts district right here in front of us. And we have not, as a city, as a region, really leaned in and capitalized on that potential. And what we have right now is, not to stress on the doom loop that Maria so eloquently reversed for us, we have nothing but opportunity. Mid-market is sitting with over 40% vacancy and climbing. And so what we have done is put out a call for creative concepts. Many of you in the audience maybe have applied. What we see is that in the vacuum out of COVID and the fentanyl crisis that delivers for us the very real experience of tragedy upon tragedy that was going on at the corner when many of us arrived, is the creative community raising their hand and saying, despite experience of generations of being tapped to lead economic recovery and then pushed out, we're here again to hold a mirror to the current situation and express back the truth of our reality. And so out of that creative concept, we've seen 50 individuals and organizations raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm willing to be a tenant in a space for up to a year and bring creativity and my art practice to mid-market to help lead a change of both the perception and the experience that's happening on the sidewalk and create a kind of connectivity between these major venues that bring internationally recognized acts right here to our city that is a leader in culture for decades upon decades. And so coming Friday, we're going to be reaching back out to 15 of the organizations that have submitted to engage them in a stipend process to develop their concepts into further proposals. We will be launching with at least 3 tenancies and vacant spaces, and then hopefully bridging out to about 7 or 8. And what we've landed on is that in all of those proposals, certain themes come up of different types of practice, whether it's literary arts or blend of tech and art or fashion and textile work, and creating creative hubs where we will house more than one organization per place to begin to develop a different type of ecosystem in a saturated, concentrated way, centered around a couple blocks of 6th and Market. And so we hope you'll follow along with that journey. In addition to that, we also have received close to 40 other concepts that are not quite tenancies, but either public art or programming, and we'll be looking to layer that as well. And then we'll look at our local business community and partners that are leading other initiatives, some of which we've heard of and we'll hear more of, to layer in other experiential pieces like food and beverage or things that might be missing in the concepts now, more music. So I can go on and on, but that's the gist of an effort that we're trying to lead. There's been a lot of talk about how do you make this sustainable, and there's not one answer, but one piece that is core to that is really galvanizing and cementing around this notion that arts and culture is already right here, and we need to lean into it and value it and hold it up and uplift it. And in that way, it won't be able to be ignored. So thanks for the opportunity, and looking forward to the conversation tonight. Do I popcorn it?
Popcorn it, please.
Meredith?
Okay, fine. Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Winner, and I am the COO and co-founder of Building 180, which is a public art production and curation agency. We work globally and also a lot in San Francisco. We are originally based here. I'm still a resident here as well. I also am the co-founder and managing director of Paint the Void, which is a nonprofit organization fiscally sponsored by Intersection for the Arts to paint murals in the Bay Area. And that project started from the wake of COVID in the very early days of the lockdown. We decided to put this organization together to uphold one of our main values, which is to help artists maintain sustainable careers. In both organizations, that's one of the pinpoints, is that we pay artists well, we really value their work, we trust them to do the best job, and we find opportunities through that.
We have music.
Yeah, I have a soundtrack. And we help connect artists to these opportunities, be it in the for-profit, which is Building 180, or the nonprofit, which is Paint the Void. I've been working with many of you in the audience, including the economic, the OEWD. I always mix that acronym up, it's bad. Also Ben Davis, who's here with Illuminate. We did the murals in JFK as a community gathering point. We've done over 250 murals in the Bay on boarded storefronts. And part of that initiative, too, is that when COVID was hitting, people didn't even know that businesses were open. And art is one way for people to get out of their homes and actually see what's happening in their community. It helps uplift people's spirits. It also showed that businesses are still thriving, even if it wasn't very apparent. And in everything that we do, a lot of the work that is public sculptures and murals are a way to get people out of their homes and to drive economic activity and to support local businesses. So we've been really successful in not having to do too much grant funding. With Paint the Void, we of course have worked with OEWD, the Mayor's Office, the Tourism Board, but typically we are trying not to apply for grant funding ourselves. It's a very long process. I'm a team of only 3 people, and we just really are engrossed in our artist community. We're artists first, and I think that really shows in the work that we do and the people that we support. I think that last year we, with Building 180, did over 137 individual projects. And with Paint the Void now, we're currently starting another project with the Civic Joy Fund to paint another 100 murals that was starting to kick off now. And we're also working with the SF New Deal on consulting for how to get the best people in their vacant spaces.
Thank you. Richard, do you want to take it away?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Richard Raya. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at the Mission Economic Development Agency. We're based in the Mission. We serve about 10,000 residents a year in the Mission. We focus on the Latino immigrant community. And we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And we started off, thank you. We started off by helping residents start small businesses, help entrepreneurs get off the ground, helping families do their taxes. But about 10 years ago, as we were seeing our population displaced, the working class immigrant population, the artists being displaced during, for the past 20 years, beginning with the dot-com boom, we lost about 10,000 Latino residents to displacement. So seeing that, we knew that we had to do something more than just provide services to folks. So we actually ventured into the affordable housing world, the world of commercial real estate. And we did that by joining with our community and organizing and advocating. A big thing that we did is we flooded City Hall about 8 or 9 years ago, along with many other organizations and many residents, just letting the powers that be know that there's a tremendous displacement crisis in our community. As a result of that type of advocacy then and ongoing advocacy, the city created new funding opportunities for affordable housing, as well as new policies to support that, to align with that funding. So as a result of that, our organization has since then bought 38 apartment buildings and prevented the residents from being evicted. And we've also built 6 large sites, so 10-story buildings with 100% affordable housing. So one of the first persons in our what we call the small sites, the apartment buildings, one of the first persons that we saved from eviction was an artist, Yolanda Lopez, a longtime Mission District resident and just a leader in the Chicano civil rights movement, which was the Mexican-American civil rights movement. And so she was able to stay in place, stay in the neighborhood as a result of us buying these apartment buildings. But and another artist that was helped through this process and who was saved from eviction is Ani Rivera, the executive director of Galeria de la Raza. So that's just an example of the type of folks that are who we help to prevent being evicted. But there's more to the work than that. With our large sites, our large buildings, and actually on our small sites too, we put murals on all these buildings, working with local artists, but we also reserve the ground floor retail space for artists, for art galleries, and for nonprofits in general in the neighborhood that have been serving the neighborhood for a long time. So one of those organizations that got placed in our ground floor retail is Galeria de la Raza. So I want to talk about the murals though, because this might be one of the most impactful parts of what we do. So we work with local artists. We work with the community to select the local artists as well as to select the topic of the art on the walls. And one of our buildings, our most recent building, 2060 Folsom, it's 127 units of affordable housing. But on that wall is a 9-story mural of the artist Yolanda Lopez, and examples of her work as well. And what you see, and examples of her work, including kind of showing how the Chicano movement interacted with the Black Power movement and the American Indian movement, and how a lot of this work was taking place in the Mission District, and a lot of this alliance building, and how that's just part of the legacy of that community. And I think what's really powerful about that 9-story mural of Yolanda Lopez's face and her artwork is that when you enter the Mission District from downtown, you see that you're entering a community with a legacy of art, of organizing, of making change. And I love that. And you may not know, but Yolanda Lopez passed away about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, right before the building was finished. And in part, that's why the community chose to have her on the building. I think what I want to say last is that this work, I can get it. I don't want to go deep on how this is part of just a comprehensive community development initiative that we're part of. We also work with the schools. We also work with small businesses to make sure that they can also afford to stay in the Mission District. But I think what we're seeing is that when the community comes together and organizes and advocates and makes noise and has a plan, we can change systems. And we've seen that happen in the Mission District. That work that I just talked about is actually now a national model. We're hosting folks from all over the country. And so there is something that is working. And there are folks on this panel and folks on earlier panels that are also talking about kind of similar success stories. So it's good for us all to be here together. It's a much needed coming together of voices because we can make change. So thank you.
Jacob or Laura, who would like to go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Poppiti. I'm the program director at Center for Cultural Innovation. And if you don't know about us, you should. We're cciarts.org, and we exist for you, our artists and arts and culture workers. We're headquartered in LA, but we have an office in San Francisco at Intersection for the Arts. We're a statewide organization. We're a regranter. So what that means is we apply for funds from foundations, government agencies, and then we regrant them into the community. And we're unique in the landscape of regranters because our focus is on individuals. So if you're part of an organization, then you're probably, especially a nonprofit, you're accustomed to probably applying for foundation grants, government grants. Well, a lot of those opportunities don't exist for individuals. So our role is to ensure that resources flow to individuals as opposed to organizations. No shade on organizations, but we love individuals. They're the backbones of our economic initiatives and of our organizations. And yeah, we focus on the economic security of individuals, and the way we do this is through our grant programs. We have regional and statewide opportunities. Some are annual, some are ongoing. I want to lift up in particular our Quick Grant program, which is for professional development support. It's amazing. It's coming upon its 15th anniversary, and it supports individuals in the arts to build their business skills and enhance their administrative capacity, because we really believe that that will help with ensuring that you have financial resilience. You're not just sustaining, but you're being more resilient to times when things are, unanticipated. We also offer business workshops and training. And we really believe that you don't have to be formally classified or incorporated, because as an individual, your artistic practice is your business, right? You are a sole proprietorship, and you need to treat your practice as a business as well as a creative practice. So we're very invested in equipping folks with just foundational skills to help map out and plan strategies for their arts-based business. And then lastly, we offer research and advocacy work. And we've always been a commissioner of primary research, but we really amplified those efforts. Especially in 2021, we released a report about arts workers in California. Excuse me. And from that, it galvanized our recently, publicly debuted Soul Center for Liberated Work, which is working on strengthening worker and social safety net protections for independent workers, because we really believe that, we're no longer a system that just relies on an employer and employee-based benefit system, right? A lot of us are freelancers and independent workers, and benefits should flow to those individuals as well. So if you go to our website, oh my God, we have so much. We have so much going on. So I think I'm just here mostly just to promote the many things that we do, and I hope you will tap into some of our resources, and thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Last but not least, we have Jacob.
All right, thank you so much. Jacob Bintliff with the Office of Economic and Workforce Development with the city. And first, I just want to start off by really thanking everyone who's here and for having us. I was with the city all through the COVID pandemic, and so for everyone who is in the arts out there and who stuck around and is still here and is not going anywhere and is doing your work, just thank you for still being here, because it was not easy. And as you all know, I don't need to tell you. I just want to share a little bit about how the city is looking at the overall task that we face coming out of the pandemic in terms of economic recovery and the role of the arts within that. As you all know, a lot has been written about our travails here in San Francisco, but many of the economic fundamentals really are there. So the problem that we're not having is an issue with jobs and overall economic growth. Our unemployment rate is extremely low, near record lows at 2.7%. We actually have more jobs than we did before the pandemic. The Bay Area, if you look at GDP, was actually the fastest growing region in 2022 in the country. So, our issue is not a lack of talent or a lack of money. It's really that people just aren't coming downtown like they used to, and people aren't coming to San Francisco from around the region in the same way that they used to. Our office attendance is at around 45%. It's been holding steady there for a while. And I will say a bright spot, though, is in tourism. Actually, we're at about 80% for domestic visits right now, and as of last month, we had 90% for international visits. So, people still want to come to San Francisco, and they are, and more of them will be coming. A lot of Asian travel has reopened after restrictions in China and Japan have been lifted recently. So we have a lot of reason to see people coming into the city. But it's not going to be because you have to for work 5 days a week. And that is just a fundamental change in the reality for downtown, and downtown is the core of our economy. It is our economic engine in San Francisco. So how does the arts play into that? We have to come up with new ways. We have to make sure people know why there are other reasons to come downtown. You need to come to San Francisco from elsewhere. You need to come downtown from elsewhere in the city because you want to, because there's something cool that you can get here that you can't get at home or wherever you're coming into the city from. And the arts is just one of those things. Sure, you can experience the arts at home if you like, but there's so much more that you get, as you all know, from being there in person. And it's also one of those industries or fields where coming together and being physically present with other people who are either inspiring you or doing the work with you is just so critical. So that's something San Francisco has to offer, whether people are taking their meetings for work from Zoom or not. So in February, the mayor rolled out a roadmap to the future of downtown San Francisco, and it had 9 strategies that range everything you can imagine, making sure that we are responding to people that are experiencing homelessness and making sure we're providing the services that people need to be healthy and to thrive, making sure that we have transit in this city to keep us getting where we need to go, to housing, to making sure our public spaces are serving everyone that they need to serve and being a reason to come downtown. And one of those strategies is the arts. And the reason for that is, as I say, that is clearly a reason. It's one area that we can really elevate that San Francisco has. We have the cultural history, we have our natural beauty, we have our architectural beauty, we have our artistic beauty, we have the people come to San Francisco thinking about creativity, and that's something that we can elevate, and it's something that we have that other places don't have in the same way. So some of the initiatives that we're working on specifically within that is a whole set of grants programs to really have activations, to have events, to make sure that people do have a reason to come downtown. We have the Vacant to Vibrant program that was mentioned in filling storefronts. We have partnerships with the Yerba Buena Community Benefits District to have a monthly art and makers market in Yerba Buena Gardens. We are partnering with Cultivate Labs in Soma to bring artists and pop-ups into spaces that especially feature the AAPI community in Soma and in downtown. We are partnering with Litquake to help them come back and thrive from the pandemic as well. We funded actually a little bit for ACT, who I want to thank as our host tonight as well. Helping them offer low price and free tickets to folks for their Wizard of Oz run, which brought 2,000 people into the theater actually at free cost or very low cost. And so it's all those things to bring people downtown and into the city for the arts. It's also getting a lot of ourselves out of the way. We're really good. We were talking about bureaucracy in the arts. Well, let me tell you, we have a lot of bureaucracy at City Hall too. Getting out of the way when it comes especially to events, especially to activations and things going on within spaces like this. It can be very complicated actually to pull something like this off, and we get in the way a lot. So getting rid of a lot of the red tape is there. Also, we're working on an initiative that we call the Arts, Culture, and Entertainment Zone, which will likely be mini zones, actually. And that is an initiative that's all about looking around at where we have the concentrations that we already have in the arts, and building a strategy around that to really elevate those parts of the city where we have the bones and helping to fill that in. So, that could be making sure the zoning and regulations are there to make it easy to do what you need to do and be flexible. Artists don't want to have to know whether I'm a nightlife use or a gallery use. You just want to do what you need to do. It could be fee relief and tax relief. It could be some more grant programs along the lines of what I've mentioned. It could be, also marketing and helping to kind of do placemaking and make sure that people know what an area like right here in Mid-Market has to offer, both people in San Francisco who may have forgotten, or people from around the world as well. So those are some of the things that we're doing. And again, I just want to thank everyone on the panel and here tonight for doing the work that you do, and we need you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Okay, everybody, we're running really late. We have time for one question. And I say
And this makes us realize we need to do a day-long event, so we can have more discussion.
And we're going to bring this back next year. Obviously, you can see we could make it an all-day event, and that's kind of what we'll be working on. So we have time for one question, but I also invite you all to our non-hosted bar. There's music, there's food. Take all the questions and all of your energy out and talk to our panelists. So who's got one question and not a dissertation? Here we go. Right here, right next to you. Who are you?
Okay, I'm Brenda Berlin. I am a longtime arts person here in the city since the 60s. I founded the Julian Theater with my ex-husband and now deceased Richard Rhinexis, founder of the cultural centers and all kinds of other things which we can talk about at some other time. But I have become very political since retiring after running the theater for 20 years, 25 years, and then running young audiences, putting artists in schools for 10 years. But, and then as president of the Arts Democratic Club, which is now defunct, unfortunately, which is a political club which got the arts in the national democratic platform. And so what I want to do is talk to you about what specifically, besides what you're talking about for the arts in Mid-Market and downtown, how are the housing, what's going on with the housing conversions with the empty spaces in the high rises? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I can touch on that a little bit. Yeah, obviously, we don't expect the same amount of office demand to be there anytime soon. So we got a lot of buildings. It's actually, you look at that as an asset we have in San Francisco. It's a lot of infrastructure that we've built over the years, and how do we make use of that space for the things that people need to do and want to do now. So in terms of converting to housing specifically, actually, we just passed some legislation yesterday that the mayor and President Peskin on the board introduced to just go through the planning code, go through the building code, get everything out of the way that needed to be done to make it really as easy as we can to do those conversion projects. We have a lot of really beautiful older buildings in San Francisco and all through this area as well that were designed at a time before air conditioning. They have natural ventilation, they have good light, so they lend themselves, they can lend themselves to that kind of conversion. The issue really is primarily economic at this point, and Richard can tell you about that as well. Building any kind of housing or any kind of anything right now is very challenging, interest rates and so on. But what we've done so far of the city is make sure that we've gotten ourselves out of the way and that we've really rolled out the red carpet for doing that. We've put out a request for interest just last week as well to invite anyone that might be a property owner or a developer or have a concept to come forward and tell us what they need. What else is there that we could help to do to make those conversions happen? And I just want to say also, that doesn't have to be just for housing. That could be for event space. It could be for art space. I mean, you tell us. We need, our buildings can serve us by being a place not just for people to live, so they're here and they're part of the community and it's not just about office workers, but they can also be places that bring people to the downtown area from other places as well. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Are there any other responses to that question?
The very same question was asked in a previous panel, and Josh Simon from CAST, I thought he had a really useful answer. He said, it's doable, the conversion is doable, money is needed, but if the community can come together and organize and advocate, then we can make it happen. And so I agree with him, because that's what allowed us to do what we're doing in the Mission District. Is we had to go to City Hall, we had to advocate, our elected leaders put a housing bond on the ballot that passed, and that's the money that we use to buy apartment buildings and preserve their affordability. So it's kind of a smaller scale example, but I just want to put that out there. I don't know how we would pay for it, but I know it would cost a lot of money, and it would take advocacy, I think, to make that happen.
Can I say something? I think if you really want the community to advocate, I think you also have to provide some channels and encourage their participation as well, because artists need space and need affordable housing, so the need is definitely there, but people are also, they have their practice to take care of, probably other jobs potentially, so it's there. Give them a vehicle.
Can I just follow up statement regarding festivals? I just want to remind people that the Fillmore Dance Festival is happening, and there are the festivals outside Lambs and the other festivals that happen in Golden Gate Park. Bring them downtown. Bring them downtown. And also, speaking of advocating, I'm registering voters
Thank you for advocating. So, everyone, I've been asked to wrap this up we're on theater time here, so I again want to thank all of our wonderful panelists for being here today, and thank you all for joining us. We're doing this again, and we would love to get your feedback and learn how we could make this even better next year. Please join us in the lobby for refreshments. Thank you. And networking. Thank you.